Hi, this is Stanley Bronstein, the founder of SuperChangeYourLife.com. Welcome to another in our ongoing series of interviews titled, How One Person Can Change the World. In this series, we're interviewing people who are using their ideas, passion, and energy to change the lives of others. Today we're interviewing Dr. Marty Eisen. By profession, Dr. Eisen was a university professor specializing in constructing mathematical models used for studying medical problems such as those in cancer, chemotherapy, and epilepsy. He's authored 10 books and numerous papers in advanced mathematics. Dr. Eisen has studied and taught yoga, judo, Shotokan karate, aikido, and tai chi. He was the founder and chief instructor of the Shotokan karate clubs at Carnegie Mellon and Duquesne Universities and the University of Pittsburgh. He taught a Qigong course at Lehigh University. He helped teach yoga at Graterford Prison. He became a disciple of Master Genfun Mark and teaches praying mantis, Qigong, and Tai Chi in South Jersey. He took correspondence courses in Chinese herbology and studied other branches of Chinese medicine with a traditional Chinese medical doctor. He was also an emergency medical technician. Dr. Eisen was the director of education of the Chinese Medicine and Acupuncture Institute in Upper Darby, PA. He's written many articles on Kung Fu, Qigong, Eastern exercise, and Chinese medicine, and is a columnist for Yang Sheng magazine. His latest Amazon hard copy and Kindle books are Healthy Exercises for Seniors and Non-Athletes. He was honored by the University of Pittsburgh in 2001 on the 35th anniversary of the introduction of Shotokan Karate as the founder for contributing to its growth, popularity, and also to students' character development. He was selected as one of the coaches for a world competition of the U.S. Wushu team in 2001 and was also nominated for the Black Belt Hall of Fame. Dr. Eisen received meritorious awards from Temple University National Youth Sports Program in 1980 and from Camden County College for participation in a student sport program in 1979. There's more, but rather than go into a lot more detail about his background, it's time to let Dr. Eisen tell us more about himself and his current activities. Doctor, welcome to Super Change Your Life. How are you today?
Oh, fine, thanks.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. That's quite an introduction. You seem like you're a very accomplished man.
Well, I'm just curious about a lot of things, and luckily I was able to do them.
Well, that's good. I had someone tell me just yesterday when I was talking to them how important it is to be curious as we go through life.
Yeah, that's important, or else you sort of fall in a rut, just do the same old things every day.
Absolutely. That can get to be very monotonous. So let me ask you, let's start back in the beginning. When you were growing up, did you have any idea that your life was going to take all the twists and turns that it's obviously taken?
No, I didn't have any idea at all what was going to happen. Well, I mean, one of the things, when we were young, I moved around a lot and was bullied. So that's one of the reasons I started studying martial arts.
Oh, that's good. I bet you reached a point where they stopped bullying you because they knew you were going to win if you got in a fight.
Well, after a while, we stopped moving, and so it wasn't a problem anymore.
Oh, because then you were able to make friends, and once you made friends,
right.
Yeah, I can imagine how that would be. So, what got you interested in all this exercise? Was it your work when you became a doctor? Is that what you were interested in? I mean, your background was mathematics, wasn't it?
Yes, but I thought I should do something for health because I just sat around all day thinking. So that's the reason that I got into exercise, and I got curious about how things worked, and I tried to get mathematical theories about chemotherapy and stuff like that, and I found that they just did it by trial and error. So I started studying other forms of medicine, like Chinese acupuncture, Qigong, etc.
So you started out with I guess we would say the Western forms of medicine, and then as you learned more, you got more into the Eastern forms of medicine.
Correct.
I'm a very big believer in much of what you advocate, and that's why I'm very glad to be speaking with you today, because I think it's so important. Can you tell us some of the things you learned once you started getting into Eastern into the Eastern philosophy?
Well, I found that most people don't try to find any scientific backup. I mean, besides the Eastern theory, there's a lot of scientific studies that show the validity of these. And also, as far as exercise goes, there's a lot of misconceptions. They think that good health is equivalent to good physical condition, which really isn't true. For example, if people run marathons, they have a great risk of all sorts of cardiology problems, which has been documented, or any of the endurance type repetitive exercises. Running is a lot more stressful for walking, and so it's not recommended for non-athletes, especially since walking produces the same health benefits as running. A study, the National Runners and Walkers Health Study, recently examined the effect of the difference in exercise and intensity on coronary heart disease risk factors. It was discovered that equivalent energy expenditures by moderate walking and vigorous running produce similar risk reductions for hypertension, hypercholesteremia, diabetes mellitus, and possibly coronary heart disease. So, I'm not sure.
Can I ask you about that, Doctor? Yeah. When as I was telling you before we started, my personal story, 5 years ago, I weighed 320 pounds, and I'm only 5'7". And I was getting ready to turn 50 years old. Now, 5 years later, I'm 190 pounds, and I did it by drastically changing my diet, eating much better, eating less food, eating healthier, eating smarter, and I also did it by incorporating a walking program into my life. And what's very interesting about what you just said, when I started walking, all the experts I would talk to told me, Stanley, you're walking too slowly. You need to walk faster. You're not getting your heart rate up. They all told me that. You're not getting your heart rate up fast enough. And I didn't want to listen to them, and I said, I'm happy. I feel good. I like walking at the slower pace. It allows me to think. And so I would walk at the slower pace, and I kept doing that. And as I started eating better, I started losing weight, and I started feeling better. And all I know is everyone who told me I was walking too slowly, somehow along the way I lost 130 pounds. My blood pressure went from the 170s, 180s systolic down to 95/55. I have a resting pulse rate of like 53, and I'm healthier than, and I believe it or not, I weigh less than I did for my bar mitzvah when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, I mean, that's backed up by scientific studies. There's one on 2012, the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, on the effects of moderate exercise. Then they studied biomarkers which led to heart injury and other undesirable characteristics. The researchers concluded not only did the biomarkers lower as the physical activity went up, but even moderate amounts of exercise in seniors dramatically lowered the risk of death by heart disease. and other things. And it even helps, with mental problems. There was the Alzheimer's Association. There's more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
1 in 8 older Americans have it. It's the 6th leading cause of death. And one of the reasons is about 60% of people over 65 are inactive. And a new report by the Ontario Brain Institute showed that if they just did 30 minutes a day of exercise, like walking, it didn't have to be at the same time. It could be done like in 3 10-minute intervals, and this reduces the risk considerably for Alzheimer's, depression, and other mental problems.
And it doesn't have to be vigorous exercise, does it?
Right. In fact, you got to be careful when you go to these gyms and you listen to these coaches, because vigorous exercise is really harmful. Lifting more than half your body weight can raise your systolic pressure to 370 millimeters of mercury. And the increased pressure may cause an aortic dissection, which the heart's main artery tears. This requires immediate surgical intervention to stem blood loss.
Well, we wouldn't want that to happen. So I guess what you're advocating is, I hear a couple of things. One is that you're telling people throughout your life, and especially as you get older, you need to keep moving. Is that the case?
Yeah, and, there's all sorts of activities that are recommended for older people, which aren't really, they're done for, publicity and making profit. They're not really the same activities that were originally taught like 60 years ago. A good example is yoga for seniors. I mean, most seniors, they're inflexible, and yoga leads to injury. In fact, there's a recent book and an article in the New York Times about all the injuries that are caused by yoga. And,
so what should they do instead? I mean, well, let me ask you, would that be where something such as Qigong or Tai Chi might be better?
Yeah, Tai Chi is very good. They've had lots of studies, that verified its health benefits in terms of, cardiac, etc. But the problem with Tai Chi, it's very difficult to learn, and most people don't teach Tai Chi. They found it's a way to make a profit. You can advertise Tai Chi for seniors, get large studies, and, people interested in it, but all they're really doing is just really walking and swinging their arms around. Might as well do that and save their money. I mean, real Tai Chi takes years to learn. You have to really study Chinese medicine, because the idea of the exercise, it increases the flow of energy or qi through your body in a certain order. And by tensing, relaxing certain muscles, it's like water flowing through pipes. Certain of the pipes are contracted.
Okay.
So it affects different organs. So you have to know all this theory, and it's also a method of self-defense. You can strike certain points that cause the energy flow in the body to change. So it takes years to learn, not, like 5 easy lessons. Now they have Tai Chi for arthritis, etc., which is just, made up forms.
So what would you recommend for people? I mean, obviously, I'm hearing you say that don't throw a lot of money after the problem, or that it's not necessary to spend a lot of money and waste a lot of money and take all these classes. That obviously, I think you're recommending that there are simple things people can do, such as put on a pair of shoes, go walk, maybe walking, stretch,
swimming, bicycle riding, just cleaning up around the house is a good activity if you do it every day. But what I recommend is instead of, Tai Chi or something complicated, they could learn Qigong, which is simple, and it can be done, all day, even in your office while you're sitting there. It can be done sitting, lying, or standing. Qi is, sort of energy, and it's the basis of everything according to Chinese philosophy. So matter and energy are equivalents, according to Einstein's theory. But and Gong means sort of learning a hard task. So if you practice long enough, you get control of this Qi. But it's not scientifically proven. They don't really have a scientific model for the Qi flows through the body. So they adopted another definition for scientific research, which is it's a mind, body, breath coordination exercise. Now, the advantages of Qigong is it's more interesting than walking, and it can be done anywhere, and it can also be done by handicapped or people who are non-athletes. It's easy to learn. You don't need any uniforms, gym, etc. It can be done lying, sitting, or standing.
Well, that's what I like, and I would imagine another exercise that people can do is just breathing.
Well, that's part of Qigong. Yeah, breathing is good for you also. I mean, it's very simple exercises, like I describe in the book on healthy exercises for seniors and non-athletes. It's called Sanobi breathing, and you only have to do that for 1 minute before each meal, and that changes your metabolic rate, and it allows really obese people to lose weight.
But yet, it's amazing that I keep hearing you say that there are simple things that we can do to improve our situation, yet for some reason, we here in America, the average American, we don't do these things.
Right. I mean, if you go to China, they've been doing it for thousands of years, and if you go out to a park, like in the early morning, you see, hundreds of people just... That's
what I was going to tell you. Let me give you an example of that. Are you familiar, outside of Los Angeles, do you know the Griffith Observatory area?
No.
Okay. Outside Los Angeles, there's an observatory there, and there's, it's not real steep, but it's a little mountainous area, and there's some walking paths on it, and it overlooks the whole Los Angeles Valley. It's right over, you can see the Hollywood sign there, and other things like that. And a few years back in 2010, I was there early in the morning. I went out there, I think it opens up, I want to say at 6 a.m., something like that. And I was out there at 6 a.m., and I spent about 4 or 5 hours out there. And honestly, for the first 2.5, 3 hours, I did not see a single person other than me who was not Asian.
Right. Yeah. It's.
They all went out there at dawn, and they were walking and exercising.
Yeah. I mean, most people with a large Chinese population, you can find these clubs or places where these people exercise together, but most Americans have never heard of this, and because it's simple and it doesn't take a long time to learn, you don't need a gym. It's not popularized.
And there's no money in it. People can't make money off of it, so nobody wants to hear about it.
Right. Yeah, there's actually, there's different forms of Qigong for health. One form is that you do it by yourself, if you're not ill, because it's good to lose weight, increase your longevity, reduce stress, etc. The other form, if you are ill, you can still do it by yourself, but you have to get specialist to assign the correct types of exercise to do. And then you have to practice for hours a day. But besides that, there's people who have practiced for a long time. They can actually manipulate the other person's chi. So they actually work on the person. They're Qigong medical doctors.
That's interesting that other people can affect your chi.
Right. And, you can treat about 200 diseases ranging from the common cold to cancer by this method. It's helpful even though they're taking acupuncture, herbs, or chemotherapy. Qigong can be helpful.
Well, I would think what I keep hearing you say is that we as Americans need to do something, and it's not a lot that we need to do, but we need to start doing it.
Correct. It's, I don't know if I mentioned this before, in a study by the Alzheimer's Institute, about 60% of people over 65 are completely inactive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons that, that people become ill, because of inactivity.
So, yet I know some people who are older. I think of two people. I know my mother-in-law. She's 81 and she doesn't want to stop. I know one of my friends, his mother, she just turned 86. She keeps moving, and I think that she goes to she goes walking every day.
Right.
Both of them do.
Right. I mean, you don't even have to walk. As long as you do household activities, that's good enough. Like cleaning, baking, and stuff like that. As long as you're moving around.
What about meditation? Have you ever practiced meditation?
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of different types of meditation. I mean, Qigong is a meditative exercise. You have to use coordinate your mind, body, and breath. So when you're doing these exercises, you're not just moving around. You're doing certain types of breathing. You're thinking of certain types of flow in your body and concentrating on certain points.
So it's all part of the same thing. So let me ask you this, Doctor. Go ahead.
There's also different types of meditation. There's some just for enlightenment purposes, some for health, and so on. And it's better to consult, if you have some problems, to consult a Qigong doctor, and they can give you the correct meditative type of exercises to do.
Now, let me ask you.
These prestigious hospitals, they don't know that, and they have these classes where you drop in once a week for some reason, and they which are completely useless if someone has a serious disease.
Okay. So what do we do if you had pulled out a magic bottle and a genie popped out? What would you recommend? What would you do to get people moving?
Well, that's kind of hard. I don't. One thing I did was, wrote this little book to try to convince people of the benefits of exercise. Now you don't really have to have complicated equipment or gyms or stuff like that. And the other thing, I try to, just when I meet someone, try to talk to them and tell them about scientific studies, stuff like that. I don't know how to really popularize it. If I could, then people would be a lot healthier.
Well, that says a lot right there. The fact that you are familiar with it and that someone as distinguished as you, who's done a lot of the research, It's not even. There's no doubt about it, is there? It's not even a question, is it? That we
Right.
would benefit if we exercised a little bit.
Right. I mean, it's proven for everything. A whole range of diseases, and it's better than drugs. So you have to try to convince people to exercise, and that's kind of hard to do because it takes sort of self-discipline. I mean, even in China, they can't get people who are seriously ill sometimes to exercise. So they either join these groups that meet in the park and they exercise together, or else they place them in a hospital and they force them to exercise for like 3 to 6 hours a day for serious conditions.
I guess we have to overcome our human nature, don't we?
Right. Yeah. Very few people have the sort of self-discipline, or else they get in a rut, just keep doing what they were doing all the time, and it's hard to get out.
See, I think the hard part is getting started. I think we build up in our minds how hard things are going to be, and then so we oftentimes don't get started. And then once we get started, we find it's not so bad, and we feel so much better that we keep going. Do you find that to be the case?
Well, I think that lasts for a while, but the problem is that if they're just walking, that might get boring after a while. That's why I recommend that people learn Qigong, because you can do a whole bunch of variety. Different exercises. You don't do the same thing every day. That might keep them interested longer. I find it's hard to keep their interest up. People tend to regress after a long time.
I understand. Well, Doctor, is there anything else, as we go to finish up, is there anything else you would like to add to what we've said, to what you've said?
I think, people should try to find out the truth about exercise, not be persuaded by these gyms and fitness instructors that try to recommend, you have to do vigorous exercise, lift a lot of weights, compete in marathons or walkathons and stuff like that. You just need, mild exercise and watching your diet.
So I guess it's just moderation.
Correct. And, after a while, if you get boring, I'd recommend people learn Qigong.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today. It's been very informative. Thank you.
Okay. I always am interested in trying to help people get better and educate themselves. That's why all my writings have been for trying to educate people about various things and not the sort of fiction.
I understand. Well, I'm going to put links to your work on your page when the interview goes so people can check it out and learn more about it.
Right. Thanks.
And I will do that. Thank you, Doctor.